If you're thinking that the only path to retirement is working harder, saving more, and investing in the stock market till you hit 65, I invite you to the 10x Your Financial Freedom through real estate. I'm going to be going over my proven framework that I used to get to financial freedom at 41 in a few short years while working full time and raising young kids. And I know that you can do it even in the current market with interest rates the way they are, and even through a recession, because hundreds of our students, many of whom are busy physicians just like you, have used the same time-tested strategies to acquire over $200 million of real estate. And on day 2 of the event, you get to meet some of them and hear their stories, how they got to 6 figures in passive income while saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes in this market. So if you're tired, burnt out, and ready to take back control of your time and income, if you're struggling with getting your first long-term, short-term rental, or investing in syndications and you don't want to learn from costly mistakes, or you feel like you don't have the time or money to get started, or if you're ready to go from a handful of rentals to 10xing your cash flow, we will be building a personalized recession-resilient real estate portfolio so you can accelerate financial freedom while paying less in taxes. So get ready to go from working harder to working smarter. Register for the event at generationalwealthmd.com/event in lowercase, and I'll see you soon. Hey guys! If you are a physician who is paying multiple 6 figures in taxes every year, and it feels like despite that you're still living paycheck to paycheck, even though you're working harder and burning out, I hear you. In 2020, I was exactly where you are. I was working full time, raising 2 young kids, paying multiple 6 figures in taxes, and feeling like I was stuck on the hamster wheel, trading my time for money without a way out. But fast forward a couple of years, and I had started slashing my tax bill by multiple 6 figures year over year, allowing me to build a 6-figure cash flowing real estate portfolio and giving me the ability to cut down to a day a week in medicine. These are the same strategies hundreds of our students have used to shelter up to $800,000 of clinical income from taxes in 1 year. And if you are someone who wants to learn 4 hidden tax strategies that doctors are using to shelter millions from taxes each year legally, if you want to learn how this is allowing them to replace their income in medicine and make work optional, and if you want to know how 100% bonus depreciation can supercharge your wealth strategy, even if you don't have a business or real estate yet, then this podcast series is for you. Welcome to Generational Wealth MD's podcast on financial freedom through investing in real estate. My name is Param Balatandapani. I'm a mom, radiologist, real estate investor, and mentor to others looking to start or scale their real estate portfolios. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with inspiration, strategies, and insight so that you can stop trading your time for money and live life on your terms. If you love the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Okay, I am super psyched about this episode, especially today's episode, because like I say, you always start with why, right? And I want to talk about how reducing my taxes started making work optional for me. I was super busy. I was working, juggling work, family, and there was a point in 2019, 2020 when I realized that if I were to follow the traditional model, investing in the stock market, paying multiple 6 figures in taxes, then I would have to keep doing that till I was 65. And I was almost 40 at that point when I had this breakthrough moment. And I started investing in real estate in 2014. I didn't know how to tap into these advanced tax strategies. But the one thing I knew was that I wanted autonomy and I wanted a way to replace my clinical income before the age of 65. And I wanted to get off the hamster wheel. And so I used these tax strategies to supercharge my wealth journey, reduce my taxes significantly year after year. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how one $400,000 property helped me shelter over $250,000 of clinical income from taxes while generating 200% in returns for me. And then how I snowballed this momentum into 6 figures of cash flow in 1 year, and how others, just like you, are using the same framework to double their tax savings in 2025 because we have 100% bonus depreciation back to build a life with choices. Okay, so let's go back and talk about the first time I actually supercharged my wealth journey using one of these tax strategies. So this was right after I had joined a tax course, and all these strategies were revealed to me. And if these are things that I hadn't heard anyone talk about at work, in my friend circle, right? I was hearing this for the first time, and we're going to deep dive into this in episode 2. We're going to talk about the 4 strategies that people really don't know about that can really help you slash your taxes, right? But I went out and I bought a single property, $400,000 property. I was working full time at this point, right? I was working full time. I did not have a cash flowing real estate portfolio that cash flowed 6 figures, which allowed me to cut back, right? So I was working full time, raising 2 young kids, and I bought a single. This was during the pandemic, no nannies, no preschool, no school, right? Their kids were home. But I bought a single short-term rental for $400,000. Now, you can purchase a short-term rental for 10% down. So let's assume I put 40,000 down on this property, right? Now, I went in and I rehabbed this property. I put in $25,000 to do a rehab. I rehabbed the kitchen, the baths, and I did this myself. You can have a general contractor do this, doesn't matter. But I rehabbed the property, right? I put $25,000 in. And then I went ahead, and because I had spent 100 hours on that property and more time than anybody else, right? That is the short-term rental tax strategy, requires you to materially participate. That's the requirement, right? So I had spent 100 hours on that property and more time than anybody else on that property. I was able to bonus depreciate the property. Okay. I was able to take tax losses, depreciate a big chunk of the building value of the property, and then my rehab costs and something called partial asset disposition, which we will get to at some point, right? If you stay tuned into the community. But the combination of all of those strategies, what I was able to do is I was able to generate $250,000 in tax losses from that single property that I was able to use against my W-2 income at that time, which gave me close to $100,000 in a tax refund. Okay. One property, $400,000, potentially $40,000 down. And that was 100 hours of work. Now, that is the same as getting a bonus at work for $150,000 pre-tax, right? And that is the equivalent of, a single down payment or multiple down payments for properties that you want to use. And I went and used it to keep growing my wealth, to keep doing the strategy, right? To keep reducing my taxes, because why not? But also, while I was tapping into this tax strategy, what you have to remember is that it wasn't just the tax refund that was hitting my bank account. What I was also able to do was, with this property being a short-term rental, I was able to generate significantly higher cash flow from this property. Also, when I did the rehab, right, so stacking on strategies, you will learn that this is a beautiful thing to do. It's like playing a game of chess. I also, by doing the rehab, increased the property value from $400,000 to $550,000, right? And there is a way for you to tap into the equity you've built in a property like this, tax-free, by doing a cash out refinance, which I did do also. So that gave me an additional 100,000 between the cash flow and the equity that I was able to tap into tax-free that year. The cash flow is also tax-free, by the way. Again, the beauty of depreciation. And so I had $200,000 in tax-free income returns from that property in 1 year, while I had only put down $40,000 as a down payment and $25,000 for the rehab, right? So $65,000 down, giving me the ability to shelter $250,000 of my clinical income from taxes and giving me about $200,000 in returns in 1 year between the tax refund, the cash flow from the property, which is tax-free, and the equity from the property tax-free for 100 hours of work, which is the equivalent of $2,000 per hour or $3,000 per hour if you're looking at pre-tax dollars, right? And so what is the value of that, right? And this is when I realized that what I had been doing for the decade before that, saving my way to financial freedom, was not going to work. It was all about strategizing. Okay, so it's all about strategizing. That is what I want you to hear, so you know it's possible for you. And then let's talk about how I snowballed this momentum into 6 figures of cash flow in 1 year. If you're interested in learning how to invest in long-term and short-term rentals the right way, so you can accelerate to financial independence with the support of mentorship, community, and vetted investor agents in strong markets across the country, then get on the waitlist for the next cohort of Creating Generational Freedom at www.generationalwealthmd.com. You don't have to learn from decades of costly mistakes by yourself. The program is only open for enrollment in the spring and fall each year. In the last 6 months alone, Our members have acquired over $60 million of real estate, and more importantly, they're living life and practicing medicine on their terms. You don't have to do it alone. So I repeated the process, right? I built out a portfolio where I had 6 figures of cash flow annually, right? Every year. Apart from that, the portfolio is growing in value, my equity is increasing, right? But I did that by repeating the process over and over again and tapping into 100% bonus depreciation, right? That is the tax strategy that allows you to take these huge losses in year one. Under certain circumstances, you can use it against your W-2 income. Otherwise, you use it against passive income, right? And so the short-term rental strategy allows you to use these huge losses against your active income, even if you're working full-time, right? And so I used the STR, the short-term rental strategy. I also used in following years, because once I gotten to the point where I had 6 figures in cash flow for my portfolio, I cut down to a day a week in medicine because that's what I needed to do at that point. And after that, I started using a second strategy, which we'll deep dive into in episode 2, called the real estate professional status, which I've been using for the last few years. And I continue to use. I hope to continue to use, which has allowed me to shelter 300 multiple 6 figures of my earned income from taxes every year, right? And so this just helps you to supercharge your wealth journey. And it really helped me to increase my cash flow significantly without having to wait to save up to be able to scale my portfolio, right? If you're someone who's looking to scale your portfolio, or you've learned strategies and you want to keep implementing it, you will learn at some point that capital becomes a constraint. And so I was able to recycle the same pot of money over and over again with these tax strategies. And so if I had to get to the point of financial freedom without having tapped into these tax strategies, it would have taken me 5 years to build a real estate portfolio with 6 figures in cash flow. And I did it in about a year because I tapped into these strategies, right? So that's how I started supercharging, and I continue to do that to this day. But now I want to also share with you, so you realize how it's possible for you, right? How so many other physicians and professionals are using the same framework to double their tax savings in 2025 and build a life with choices, right? We will deep dive into the 4 specific strategies that you can use to be able to do this. And I'll share examples with you. But just to give you like an overview, Dr. Samana Mole, one of our one-on-one students, she was able to actually stack on a few of these strategies and shelter $800,000 of her clinical income, her earned income from taxes in 1 year, combining these strategies, right? Dr. Lajide, who he has been investing in real estate for over a decade, and over the course of that decade, he really didn't realize how he could tap into the tax efficiencies that real estate affords, that the tax code affords to real estate investors. And, when he joined our program, he realized that with everything that he was doing with his spouse who could qualify as a real estate professional, they realized that they could slash their taxes massively. And within a few years of joining the program, they were able to build out in partnership a $50 million portfolio and become super tax efficient, right? Now, these stories are only possible when you are supercharging a strategy with these tax sheltering opportunities. Now, Dr. Kumar, one of the coaches within our program, she's an endocrinologist, she's a mom. I believe she's also chief of service at this point. So she has a full life, but she has 10 short-term rentals that she self-manages without property managers, where her income from these properties exceeds her clinical income. And she's also able to drastically reduce her tax burden because she's using these very same strategies, right? So if you're someone who's like excited about learning more, seeing how this could work for you, then we have an amazing virtual free 3-day event coming up, generationalwealthmd.com/event. Please sign up for that. This is where we actually deep dive over the course of 3 days into actual strategies, right? How can you really implement these strategies and get to financial freedom 10 times faster? We have physician speakers who join us and they start sharing their stories, strategies that they've used, challenges that they've encountered, and how they actually navigated those. So it's really actionable items. And so if you're really looking to start implementing this, 100% bonus depreciation is here to stay. It's permanent unless the tax code changes. And so if there was ever a time to start looking into these strategies to supercharge your wealth journey, it's now. So go on to generationalwealthmd.com patreon.com/event in lowercase and sign up. This is my invitation to you to come and learn with us. And for those of you who really want to start, episode 2 is deep diving into 4 specific strategies you can use to shelter your income from taxes. This is what physicians have been using to reduce their taxes to $0, and you should know what they are, right? So tune in to episode 2 of this podcast series and sign up for the event, generationalwealthmd.com/event in lowercase. Can't wait to share these secrets with you.